Cyber attacks against small businesses have been increasing fast. It's now up to 43% of all attacks are targeting small organizations. And one of the simplest, most affordable ways to protect your business is something that many companies still overlook: multi-factor authentication. If you've ever asked, what is multi-factor authentication and why does my business really need it? I've got some great information for you today. I'm going to be breaking down how MFA works, why it's so critical, and some steps on how you can implement it in your organization without draining time or budget. Hello, everyone. I'm Michael Kinnett. I'm president and founder of iTernal Networks. And here at iTernal Networks, we believe in empowering businesses and individuals with the knowledge that they need to succeed. So every Friday at 1 p.m. Pacific time, I go live on all of our socials to discuss different topics around technology, cybersecurity, and AI to help empower others. These live streams really aim to help others to feel more confident in their knowledge of business technology and cybersecurity. At iTernal Networks, we are dedicated to creating safe and secure environments for businesses and people to do what they love. And staying educated on the latest in tech and cyber is a big part of that. At the end of the live stream, I'll make sure to leave some time to answer questions from the audience. So if you have any questions, throw them in the comments at any point in time, and I'll make sure to have time at the end. With that being said, let's get on to today's topic. Let's start with the basics. What is multi-factor authentication? Multi-factor authentication, or MFA for short, is a security feature that requires users to provide more than one type of verification before they can log into an account. Think of it like locking your front door with both a key and a fingerprint scanner. Even if somebody steals your key or your password, they can't get in without that second layer, right? Without your fingerprint. MFA uses two or more of these authentication factors. I do want to point out, sometimes you may hear it called 2FA instead of MFA. 2FA is just a type of MFA where two are required. MFA can require more than two, and it needs to require more than two of this. So first, something that you know, which is like a password or a PIN. The second option is something that you have. That could be a smartphone, it could be a security token. And the third option is something that you are. It could be your fingerprint or your face if you have facial recognition. This combination makes it much harder for attackers to get into your accounts, even if your password gets leaked or stolen. So let's talk a little bit about why MFA is so important then. The reality is passwords just aren't enough anymore. Hackers use phishing, they use credential stuffing, they use brute force attacks. They have many tools in their tool belt that can crack weak passwords in seconds. If one stolen login gives them access to your emails, your customer data, your bank accounts, the damage could be massive. But with MFA in place, even if a hacker does get your password, they can't get any farther. That second factor shuts the door and prevents them from getting any further along. MFA can protect your business from phishing. So even if someone clicks on a fake link, MFA will block unauthorized access. Now, there are some advanced ways around MFA and stuff, so it's not perfect, but we're talking like 90+% protection here. It can protect against credential stuffing, which is when they use stolen logins from other sites and basically try to use all of those in a rapid manner in order to gain access. So that's not going to work, because even if one of those is your password, without that MFA, they're not going to be able to get in. It can also help to protect against insider threats. If someone on your team has a compromised password, MFA adds a second layer of protection to prevent that from going any further. And also, many modern authentication systems offer risk-based authentication. which adjusts the level of verification required based on where you're logging in from or what device you're using. Microsoft 365 calls this conditional access. By implementing this, essentially it means smarter protection without slowing you down. So let's talk a little bit now about how you can set up MFA for your business. And I'm going to break it down into four basic steps. First, identify your high-risk accounts. Start with your most sensitive systems. We definitely recommend setting up MFA everywhere that you can, but you have to start somewhere, and this is it. First, your business email. That could be Microsoft 365, Google Workspace, maybe another system. Make sure you have MFA implemented for those. If you're using VPNs and remote access, make sure you have MFA to add that second layer of step for any remote access into your systems. Any payment platforms that you have, that could be for receiving customer payments or for sending payments, right? We want to make sure that we're protecting any monetary transaction systems with MFA. Also, make sure that your customer databases and your company social media pages, right? All of those should be your first priority. We want to protect your money. We want to protect your communications, and we want to protect your identity, right? As an organization, right? Those are the reasons why these are the top priority. All right, the next step here is to choose your MFA tool. There are free options, there are paid options, depending on what fits your team and what your requirements are. I would say for most organizations, the free options is probably good enough. And if not, well, it's a good place to start. Some of the best known include Google Authenticator. That's a free app that uses time-based one-time passwords. Microsoft Authenticator, similar to Google, it works really well, especially if you're a Microsoft 365 user, where it allows the system to push that MFA to your device instead of rotating password. Slightly different, a little bit easier to use at times. Duo Security is another very popular platform. It's very user-friendly. It also has push notification options. Authy, they support backups and they support using multiple devices, some unique things about their system. Okta, this is one that does have costs, right? This is enterprise-grade MFA and identity management. It works very well. There are some fees associated with it. Same thing with Duo. There's some fees with Duo. So these authenticator apps, for the most part, use time-based one-time passwords, or TOTP. What this is it's a code that refreshes every 30 seconds. This is just another side note on the TOTP passwords. If the time is off on your phone or on your computer that you're logging in from, the TOTP is not going to work. It relies on a reliable time source to that refresh. So if your computer's time is a minute off from your phone, you will not be able to use that MFA to log in. So just a little side tip. Some of these authenticator apps that I just mentioned also support push notification MFA. They're fast, they're secure, and they're very easy to use on mobile phones. Essentially, it pushes out a notification on your phone and asks you to verify and then either approve or deny that login. All right, so once you've made a list of which sites you're going to do MFA on, you've selected your MFA application that you're going to use, the next step is to roll it out to you and to your team. Let's start with admins, right? These are the most important accounts. Start with those, make sure you get the MFA in place, make sure it's working, and then roll it out organization-wide. Some tips on helping to make it smooth. Create a video tutorial, share with your team how to use the Authenticator app, how to set it up on different types of accounts. Send internal communications explaining why you're implementing MFA, why it matters, and I would suggest in that including maybe an FAQ, right? They're going to ask questions, just answer them up front as much as you can. Make sure that you provide support for your less tech-savvy team members. Every team has them. You probably know who they are. Just make sure that you give them a little bit of extra care, because it might be a little more challenging for them than for others. And so they may need some extra assistance. Also, make MFA mandatory on sensitive systems. Most systems have options now where you can, as the admin, check a box and enable a policy that requires MFA for all users in that system. Don't turn it on until you've told your team you're going to be turning it on so they know what to expect though. Also, the better you onboard and train your team, the better the adoption is going to be and the happier that they'll be. I tell you what, if you have a bad onboarding, you're going to have bad adoption, you're going to have upset employees as well. So make sure you're planning appropriately and rolling it out in a manner that's going to make it successful. And then once you've done these things, it's important that you monitor and maintain, which is my last step here. MFA isn't completely a set it and forget it. You need to make sure that you're reviewing and making sure that your users all have MFA enabled and that they haven't turned it off. Test logins and simulate phishing attempts to make sure that the systems are working properly. Update access as people change roles. And re-verify devices. If people get new devices, you may have to help them to reestablish and reset up their MFA. All of this helps keep your MFA settings current and effective. Frequently, when we hear about breaches in the news, we come to find out that it all came because somebody disabled MFA because of one reason or another and forgot to turn it back on and open the door for those criminals to get in. So we want to make sure that we're monitoring and reviewing and making sure that your systems are still as secure as when you onboard them. All right. I wanted to talk a little bit about some common challenges with MFA, as well as some ideas on how to possibly solve them. So these are some things that you might hear, or maybe you have even thought them yourself, right? So as you're rolling it out and discussing it with your organization, you might hear, it's annoying, right? I really don't like this. It's really annoying. Well, here's how you can frame it. MFA isn't there to annoy you, right? It's there to protect you, your identity, your paycheck, and your customers. And sometimes we have to take extra steps in order to protect ourselves from the threats that are out there. All right, another thing you might hear is it's too many prompts. Right, I get prompted for MFA all over the place. It takes too much time. It's just too much. Well, I would suggest for this, make sure you're choosing tools that have push notifications instead of constant hash codes that change. That will help to reduce MFA fatigue. Also, wherever possible, set up conditional access policies to make sure that you're limiting or preventing MFA requirements when logging in from a trusted location like your office. And what that looks like, if you have it configured in Microsoft 365, for example, you can specify if I'm logging in with my username and password from my office with a verified IP address, don't require me to have MFA when I log in. But if I'm logging in outside of the United States, 100% we want MFA every time, right? So you can adjust those policies to make it to streamline your workflows, right? To allow you access when and where is trusted, while requiring some additional things when it's a more risky type of login. All right, here's another common question or concern. What if somebody loses their phone? That's a great question, right? Because if you lose your phone and that's where all of your MFA is tied to, guess what? Now you can't log in anywhere. There are some tools that you can use that support backup codes or secondary methods. All systems should allow your administrator to reset their MFA to be able to get them back in. So it does require some additional steps when you lose your phone to be able to get back into the systems, but there are methods to be able to get around losing that and resetting and regaining that access. Another concern we hear is it won't work with my system. Well, at this point in time, that's probably more of an excuse than the reality. Most MFA platforms integrate with a wide range of software. I can't think of the last time I came across one that did not work with it. Another concern is it's too expensive. Well, most of the apps that I talked about today, at least Microsoft and Google's, are free. You don't need any enterprise tools right away. If the system that you're trying to secure with MFA is telling you that you have to pay an additional fee to be able to turn on MFA, you might want to look for another system out there, because MFA has become an industry standard as an additional way of securing your account. So it should not be expensive to implement at all. All right, if you need to pitch this to your staff, here's another simple explanation, right? So this is an analogy comparing your house, right? So thinking about what MFA is, right? It's that something that you know, something that you have, right? Could be the second form, or something that you are. So think about something that you know. If you have an alarm system on your house, something that you know to get into your house would be the alarm system PIN, right? Knowledge that you have. Your second form could be the key, right? Something that you have. The fingerprint reader could be something that you are, right? So you can have multi-method, right? So you have the PIN for your alarm system, you have the physical key, and then you have the fingerprint for the fingerprint reader. So even if somebody knows your alarm system PIN, they can't just walk through the door. And even if they know your PIN and somehow they've made a copy of your key, they can't replicate your fingerprint and just walk through the door. So the more verification methods you have, obviously the more steps you have to take, but also the more secure that you are. You can also clarify the difference with your team between 2FA, right, two-factor authentication, and MFA, where 2 is just using 2, MFA is involving more, to help avoid any confusion with, well, what is 2FA, what is MFA? Once your team understands that MFA protects both them and the business and your clients and your revenue source, adoption definitely gets a lot easier. Look, I get it. This stuff can feel like a lot, right? You're trying to grow your business, you're trying to keep your team productive, and now you've got to worry about hackers, phishing scams, data breaches, MFA, all of this stuff, right? It can be very overwhelming. But here's the good news, right? Protecting your business doesn't have to be that complicated. MFA is one of the easiest ways to shut down most of the common attacks that we see. And once you set it up, it just works, right? It works in the background. If you're not sure where to start or which MFA tool makes the most sense for your team, let's talk. You don't have to figure this out alone. This is exactly why I started iTernal Networks. I wanted to help businesses and individuals to feel more confident about their IT and cyber solutions and to have good, secure solutions in place. You'll find links to reach out to access the full transcript in the chat and the video description below, as well as a link if you'd like to set up a one-on-one and talk with me about MFA or any other questions or concerns you have about your security and the technology in your business. Let me switch over and see if we have any comments or questions from our live audience. I'm not seeing any questions from our live audience today on this. Hopefully that means that I answered everybody's questions. I do appreciate you taking time to join us today or watching this video after the fact. If you found this information helpful, please give it a thumbs up. Leave a comment with any questions or thoughts that you might have. We really do look for your feedback to help us to create more content that's valuable to you. Also, don't forget you can subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon so that you don't miss any updates. Remember, knowledge is power, and we're here to help you navigate the world of technology and cybersecurity. If you need any further assistance, please reach out to us via direct message, call our office, email us, or visit our website at itnet.works. Have a wonderful weekend, and we'll see you next week.